As German troops marched through Paris, the guns on the Western Front had finally fallen silent. The horrors of the Great War, which claimed over 30 million lives and wrought havoc upon all of Europe, had ended. The German Empire had triumphed utterly. That morning the world awoke to a new age. The age of the Kaiserreich. January 1917. Wilhelm II, Kaiser of the German Empire, holds a council with his military advisors. These councils are regular, but this one will bring about a decision that changes the course of the war. High-ranking military officials, including the head of the Imperial Naval Office, von Kappel, join Chancellor von Bethmann-Hollweg in urging the Kaiser not to resume unrestricted submarine warfare in the Atlantic Ocean, fearing the inevitable attacks on American shipping will draw the United States into the war on the Allied side. The opponents of unrestricted submarine warfare brace themselves for defeat when Erich Ludendorff argues in the strongest possible terms that unrestricted submarine warfare should be resumed. The previous year, this Prussian son of minor nobility had been raised to the rank of General Quartiermeister, a new role placing him in command of the German army's logistics and supply. In reality, the role was far more powerful, and Ludendorff was on track to become de facto dictator of all things military, in a duumvirate with Chief of the German General Staff, Paul von Hindenburg. It was perhaps this obvious desire for power that made the Kaiser wary of increasing Ludendorff's influence further. Had he been given the apparent authority to override the German Navy's own wishes, there would have been little standing in the way of his and Hindenburg's total dominance of the German state. Wilhelm, seeing this, decides to act. After no more than a few minutes, the die is cast. The Kaiser has decided against resuming unrestricted submarine warfare. The decision will only delay, not prevent, the rise of Ludendorff and Hindenburg to supreme authority within the empire. But while it sacrifices the chance to starve Britain out of the war, it near eliminates the risk of the United States declaring war on Germany herself. The United States must be neutral in fact as well as in name during these days that are to try men's souls. We must be impartial in thought as well as in action, must put a curb upon our sentiments as well as upon every transaction that might be construed as a preference of one party to the struggle before another. Woodrow Wilson, 28th President of the United States. Wilson spoke for many Americans who wanted the United States to stay out of any conflict. But there was a darker and deeper reason behind U.S. non-interventionism. As early as the mobilization of 1914, agents of the Abteilung 3B, the Germans' elusive spy agency, had been infiltrating the highest rungs of U.S. political life. Moving through the swathes of German expats and immigrants on the Northeast, their single aim was to keep the U.S. from intervening in any European war. This would buy the Kaiserreich the time to make a decisive strike against the Allies and claim her hegemony over the continent. Had the German Navy returned to unrestricted submarine warfare and claimed countless American lives, the Abwehr's efforts might have been in vain. But with no pressing need to side against Germany, proponents of American neutrality maintained control of Congress. President Wilson, re-elected in 1916 with a slogan of "He kept us out of war," was all too willing to steer clear of foreign entanglements. 1917 was a turning point in the war diplomatically, but also militarily. After 3 years of war, cracks had begun to show in the determination of Allied forces. Heavy French casualties at Chemin des Dames led to widespread mutiny among French troops. This disaster discourages the French High Command from continuing great offensives until the end of the year, giving Germany a chance to recover from the unmitigated catastrophe of the Brusilov offensive in the east. With both sides suffering more than 1 million casualties, the aftermath of this stunning and forward-looking offensive masterminded by General Brusilov was a pause in the Russian advance. The motherland simply had no further reinforcements to send, and further attacks were out of the question. The Central Powers, meanwhile, had taken careful note of the devastating use of carefully targeted artillery and small unit tactics with which Brusilov had found success. It was an approach which would now be turned against a Russian army which had exhausted itself. But even if German and Austro-Hungarian forces had not been preparing an assault, the Russian Empire's time was running out. A peasantry and working class furious about looming famine, military incompetence, and a lack of compassion turned their ire on Tsar Nicholas II. After riots, mass mutiny, and rebellion, the Tsar abdicates in March of 1917. A provisional government is formed under the brilliant lawyer Alexander Kerensky, but the young man's unstable reign is quickly snatched away by a new emerging faction, the feared Russian Bolsheviks, led by the enigmatic Vladimir Lenin. As the old guard of the Russian Empire and Kerensky's democratic forces form an unlikely alliance against the Red Menace, it is not long before the broiling conflict erupts in open war. The First Russian Civil War has begun. In Berlin, the news is met with delight. The Kaiser's decision to secretly assist Lenin's return to Russia has paid off, and the bear to the east is mortally wounded. Offensives drive deep into Russia, and in March 1918, Germany signs the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk with the secretly established Russian Soviet Federative Socialist Republic. Swathes of lands that once belonged to the Tsar now answer to the Kaiser and to the Austrian Emperor. In Vienna, 1918 brings more for Emperor Karl to celebrate. The stalemate of inconclusive and bloody battles along the Isonzo River comes to an end with the Caporetto offensive, beating the humiliated Italian army back to the Piave River. Only a heroic last-minute defense prevents the Austrians from taking Venice, and when the front line has settled, the Habsburg Emperor's armies are poised and ready for a fateful push into the Italian heartland. Success for the Central Powers is not universal. The Ottoman Empire, long derided as the sick man of Europe, proves incurable. After a series of devastating raids and attacks by the dashing Lawrence of Arabia across 1917, the Sultan slowly loses control of his precious railways, lifelines to Ottoman frontline soldiers. Chronically undersupplied and outmatched by Allied and rebel Arab infantry, the Ottoman army loses Baghdad and Jerusalem to British forces. Celebrations in London are short-lived. In December 1917, another blow to Allied morale rings a death knell for their relationship with the United States. On a routine patrol, a British submarine mistakenly torpedoes an American freighter carrying Christmas gifts to Germany, killing several US citizens. Seizing their opportunity, pro-German politicians in the United States move swiftly. Urging support for the Central Powers, the backlash they whip up forces Britain into a partial opening of the blockade, averting the looming spectre of famine in Central Europe. The opening of the blockade, combined with the relief of winning the war in the East, rallied German forces and set off a series of cascading events that would eventually spell doom for the beleaguered Allies on the Western Front. With Germany focused on the East, in the first half of 1918, the British and French realized that with American support no longer a reasonable expectation, the time to strike is now. At this stage in the war, the sides still seemed relatively even-matched, an assumption shattered by the outcome of the Allied Great Spring Offensive. After 3 months of fighting, not one of its objectives had been met, and an irrecoverable 800,000 casualties had been suffered by the Allies. The capitulation of Greece to Field Marshal Erich von Falkenhayn a month later buoyed German spirits further. With Russia eliminated and the Allies exhausted in the West, Germany has decisively claimed the initiative in the war. It is up to her to determine how to use it. She would do so in 1919. After spending the second half of 1918 biding time and redeploying forces from the Eastern Front, the German High Command begins its own great offensive, masterminded by Ludendorff. So-called infiltration tactics proved devastatingly effective, and the crucial railway hub of Amiens, the Allied headquarters, falls to Germany on the 26th of March. The British and French forces are now unable to supply one another, and even communication becomes difficult. On the 31st of May, the first short-distance artillery shots hit the capital, starting the siege of Paris. Ferdinand Koch is dismissed as supreme French commander and replaced with Philippe Pétain. A final blow is not yet delivered. The long-awaited Austrian offensive to knock Italy out of the war has stalled, and German forces are diverted to the southern front. While they will find success, Pétain and the defenders of France are granted a short operational respite. The British Army uses this time to attempt a fighting retreat to the Channel coast, hoping to withdraw safely to the United Kingdom. The Entente cordiale is crumbling. As the hungry citizens of Paris begin to man the barricades once more, the desperate French leadership gambles everything on a counter-breakthrough in the Oise region. Miraculously, French tanks and cavalry divisions punch through the German lines, offering tantalizing hope. The lasting impact, however, is simply to delude the French High Command that a further offensive would have the same success. As she throws all remaining resources into an attempt to link up with the isolated British forces near the coast, France's luck finally runs out. The rear of the front collapses in the face of a German counterattack. It felt like their great offensive had come again, and soon we had no more shells to fire back. Unnamed French soldier, 1919. There are no more supplies coming. Unrest and rebellion in French cities has slowed war production to a crawl. Pétain advises against surrender, but the matter is taken out of his hands by the French army's old enemy, mutiny. With her army crippled, and with no other options, France requests an armistice with the German Empire. On the 4th of October, it is signed, both sides hurrying through negotiations. One condition is that on the 6th of October, the German army's victory will become unambiguous with a march through Paris itself. Gefreiter Andreas Koch watches from the Eiffel Tower as he and his men raise the flag of the empire that now unquestionably dominates mainland Europe. The Treaty of Versailles is signed a month later, punishing and humiliating the fragile provisional French government. Its people are still up in arms. The Third Republic was born with revolutionaries in Paris and German armies victorious on its soil. It dies in much the same fashion. From Dunkirk to the Dnieper River, the guns have fallen silent on a new German continent. However, just across the Channel, an Allied power remains. The United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland, still confident in the might of her Royal Navy, refuses to come to terms. The stage is set for the Second Battle of Jutland, and the war seems far from over. To be continued.
Wait, they're listening with the audio on. The Kaiser Cat Cinema crew proudly welcomes you to the world's first alt history webshop. We are a collective of artists, actors, and musicians who make alt history content on YouTube. All of our original work can be bought through the webshop, and every sale helps us create more free content.
My goodness, the Mad Cats actually did it! This is the first episode of our Kaiserreich Documentary series, a massive project to detail the entirety of Kaiserreich lore from 1917 up to the start of the game mod in 1936. We had the backing of a great group list for this particular episode. Special thanks to Tom Black and Gabrial Matsakis for the writing. Most of you will know Tom as the author of the world's first Kaiserreich novel, The People's Flag, which you can find on his Amazon store page. So make sure to swing by if you would like to support Tom and his work. Kaiser Cat Cinema is a crowdfunded platform funded by the sale of merchandise and patron contributions. So consider swinging by their webshop and buying a poster or flag if you are a fan of our projects and would like to see more. We also want to thank voice actor Patrick Warner, who was selected by our community to be the voice of this documentary series. We are very excited to be working with such a talented voice actor. We want to especially thank our patron donors, whose monthly contributions allow us to keep continuing to produce this original content and music for the YouTube channel. Our patron contributions continue to rise, having quadrupled ever since March. Patrons of Cameo Cat tier and above can make cameo appearances in Kaiser Cat Cinema art and animations. They also get access to free goodies, exclusive behind-the-scenes content, live streams, Zoom calls, and more. Special thanks to our biggest backer, John Thomas Justice. John, thanks for helping us out there, who you can see in the Kingfish poster here. Also thanks to our top backers, Sino Joe, Anthony, Wolfrunner, Isael, Alex Burchards, Kingfish 58, and Lobster Man, and Devo. This month we are welcoming several new patrons to the crew. Matthias Hansen, Tobias Herzig, Jules Belia, J.R. Exner, Daniel Close, The Gamer, Charlie Acker, Peter Bacon, Deep Space, and Matthew Phillips. A massive thanks to all of you guys. So welcome to the Kaiser Cat Cinema crew, and we hope to see you in the patron chat soon. That is all for now. Don't forget to subscribe and comment to let us know what you thought about this new Kaiserreich documentary series. Our next episode will detail the continuation war with Great Britain and the collapse of the British Empire, and be around the times 1918 through 1925, roughly. So let us know what you guys thought. We look forward to seeing you for the next episode, and I will see you for the next one, guys.